Welcome back. This is episode 2. The last episode you saw us stripping down a fairly straightforward Black Magic competition pump. It was a combination of motor, block, pump head, tank. That simple. What we wanted to do is take it apart, show you what the individual parts were, give it a clean out, show you any specific maintenance issues. You might remember we had a problem with an O-ring, which I didn't realise. We didn't know that pump was running in a car all that time, and it had a burst O-ring. It's a good reason for you to strip your pumps down and have a look inside. So now we're going to reassemble this pump. It's exactly the same parts, haven't changed anything. All we've done is clean the swarf out of this tank. We've cleaned the motor up, which wasn't in bad condition anyway. It doesn't seem that worn, it must be relatively new. Give the pump head a quick clean down, make sure there's no nasty bits of that broken seal still kicking around in there. And now the main thing we need to do and remember is to replace this seal. So a packet of O-rings that you can get from most hydraulic suppliers. You need to make sure you select the right size O-ring. I've found, I mean, that's a good fit in there. You want it to fit well enough for it to be snug so it doesn't fall out, but you can also see that it's sitting slightly proud, which is what creates the seal between the pump head and the block. So the next step is to put your pump head back in once you've got your O-ring in place. These have to be torqued down to about 25 foot-pounds. Now I haven't really got a decent vise for doing that sort of work, so what I'm going to do is a quick tip for you if you don't mind ruining your workbench. So I'm just going to screw the block down to my work desk to hold it in place while I torque it down, because otherwise it's going to fly all over the place. I have got a vise, but it's a bit small, so that's that in place. Now that O-ring lines up with this pressure port, so you need to make sure you get that in the right position. You need to make sure that those holes line up. Just get that in place, and then these are your 2 bolts. They've got shake-proof washers on, make sure they're still on. Stops them from coming loose. Right, so I'm just going to nip these up just until they're tight enough to pull that pump head down, squeeze that seal nicely in place, and then I'll get my torque wrench, which is magically preset to the right setting, and then turn that. I won't give it all a one big blast though, I'm going to give it sectional like this to spread the load. Right, so we're tightening these down till this torque wrench clicks to tell me, oh, there you go, that one's done. This one won't be far behind. There you go. Now this doesn't need to be on here anymore, so I'm just going to whip these out. That's lovely. So that's your pump head in position, nice and tight, torque down, 25 foot-pounds of torque on there, nice. The next step is, I would suggest, I mean, it's quite nice, sits quite nice on there, so give that a good wipe. Might be worth using a bit of solvent or something to clean that off. And put your little key back in, make sure it's the right way around. In fact, it'll be easy to do it in place. So what you need to do, that's the old key, you don't need that one, is make sure that lines up on there. It's a case of trying to find, without that on, which is quite helpful actually, you can see the holes all the way down, and you're looking for the holes to line up. There you go. Now there's 2 ways that you can put these motors on, depending on how you've got your install. So as you can see, that's where your block mounts to your battery rack and your pump rack. So you might want your terminal at the bottom so you can't see it, or for easy use you might want it at the top. So you've got the option to put it into the 2 positions. So again, you're looking for where the holes line up, and there's that. So that's with it at the top. Then finally put the end cap back on, and you've got your 2 bolts insulated. Make sure that the insulation's at the top and not at the bottom. Slide them down to the holes that you've just eyed up. They should start fairly easily. Again, they're 10mm, so I've got a 10mm ratchet spanner. Just nip them up. You don't have to be super tight. I don't think there's any torque setting for these. It's just a case of getting it tight enough for it to stay on and not come loose. These have also got a shake-proof washer, so should prevent it from coming loose. So that's that done. Let's just bin that old O-ring. Make sure everything's clean and tidy. Get rid of any bits of nastiness. Now, getting these tanks on can be just as hard as putting them, taking them off. So it might be worth just getting a little bit of oil on your finger, like that. Wang it on there. Just makes it slide a bit better. A little bit of lubricant. One for the ladies. So then the tank, these can be an absolute bastard to get on. This Baines is going to be editing a lot on this one, that's for sure. Right, so as you're putting this on, you need to make sure that you get your holes lined up, because it's an absolute bugger to turn this and get it aligned once it's on. So you need to try and pop it on. That's one side on, but I guarantee the other side will go off. There you go. That's lovely. Ooh, nice. So that's all lined up now. So you get your end plate, dead straightforward now. Bang that in place. Pop those through there. You should already all be in line. Nice. Open that one that's on the deck. That's that. And then you 4 of these. Again, these don't need to be super tight. Ooh. So 2 11mm spanners, one on one end, one on the other, and just give it a little nip up. Again, try and do them crisscross, so you're spreading it, spreading the load. You don't want to tighten these up too much. But some of these end plates, not naming any names, but the old CCE style ones, they tend to bend. If you tighten them up too much, they just start to bend because they're like a laser cut thing. They're not as strong as just a flat plate, end plate like this. And that's that. So that's your pump reassembled. Just give it a bit of a wipe down. The only thing I haven't popped in is your plug. Somebody's put PTFE tape on that at some point. That isn't really critical, and you don't really need to tighten these up either. I mean, unless you're pressurizing your tank, which on this pump we can't. You can put like a tyre valve fitting in there, and you can pressurize the fluid in your tank, so when you hit the switch it flies down your lines quicker. But you tend to find with these pumps that pressure won't stick around very long anyway, especially if you've got that tank plug loose. But I tend to leave these finger tight, so any air in the lines can gradually make its way out through that tank. And filling these up, you need a funnel and a bottle of oil. I haven't got any with me at the moment, but never overfill. Always fill them when they're in the car because they'll get really heavy, but try and fill it so you can see, I don't know, a good couple of centimeters below the top of the tank, because you don't need to fully fill a tank. And then if you do fully fill a tank, you can find that you pressurize the tank because there's nowhere for the fluid to go, and it can cause the tank to burst, make a right mess, and thread all these bolts. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a freshly reassembled pump. Of course it's missing some of the bits off the top. We'll put that in another episode, how to assemble from the pressure port to a check valve, or 2 check valves depending on what sort of setup you've got, and then your dump or 2 dump valves, and then all the way through to your rams via a line, hydraulic hose, and then your 2 return lines to a slow down valve into your return port. But generally that's how your pump should look. Banging, bruv.
Oh shit.
Not filming any of that?
No. I'm joking.
dick beak.